The world's best live poker tournaments are coming to London. WSOP Super Circuit, Triton Super High Roller Series. At the JW Marriott Grosvenor House, starts July 27th. Play Road to London to earn your seat at WSOP and Triton. Claim one of the 15 circuit rings at the WSOP Super Circuit main event with a £3 million guaranteed prize pool. Or stamp your ticket to the Triton Super High Roller GG Millions Live. Take a ride on the road to London with GG Poker and live the ultimate on-live poker experience. Qualify now only at the world's biggest poker room.
Good evening, everyone. It's Sunday at 10 p.m. It just comes round every week. And it is, of course, the APAT show. Leigh, hope you've had a great week. Tell me, who do you have in the back room for us?
Oh, of course we've had a great... Well, we did an extra show on Wednesday night.
We did, didn't we?
It's been one hell of a week, to be honest. We certainly did that. Yeah, but Sunday night, and as we promised on Wednesday night, we have the one and only Chris Bean back safely from a summer in Vegas working for PokerNews, back on the show, friend of the show. Chris, how are you, my friend?
Not too bad. Glad to be back on the show.
Yeah, lovely to see Chris back on the show, Leigh. Donning an APAT Raise for Jack shirt as well. Very nice indeed. Special favours for Chris tonight, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. That's coming around. We haven't actually mentioned it for this year already, but the guys I know are starting to promote Raise for Jack every year. Their poker event. We will give that a shout out, and certainly will do in the next month or so as it's building up to that. Yeah, very much. A little bit going on poker wise tonight. We've got some GG stuff going on in the background. It is another one of the on-live day ones into the WSOP London Super Circuit main event, the 3,300 buy-in event with a 3 million guarantee. So there's a little day one going on there. And top of your screen, you'll see one Toby Lewis currently playing this one. 15 players remaining. So Toby is currently sat with 77 bigs. I think this is going to play down till about 3. There's late reg for another couple of hours, so they might get a few more in, but maybe 3 or 4 players will basically take their stack through to day 3 effectively in the money live at the GW Grosvenor in London. So everything kicked off there on Thursday. So they're playing the Mystery Million final day ones today in London. So you can see the setup there on the screen. Beautiful. The grand room, all of that setup is. That's the WSOP side of it. Then it's like an aeroplane, Des, right? You know, so that's like economy, maybe premium economy. Yeah. Then there's a little wall, and then the other
I've
side
seen the wall.
of the wall.
It's at the top of the picture there. Is that the wall? The black
other side
wall?
of the wall is the Triton stuff, which is like that's upper class, isn't it? That's like where they're playing poker on flatbeds.
I'm liking it, Leigh. So you're saying every poker table in there, it probably only has one seat.
Pretty much, that's all they're doing. Phil Ivy's
VIP,
there
sir.
being fed grapes and whatnot. Yeah, it's having a great time. So yeah, amazing setup there though. So that's going on at the moment. But yeah, Toby's going strong in this. We'll keep an eye out on any other names we recognise. To be honest, we've got the perfect man with us. Should we know any names that we recognise? We always go on GG by if they've not got some funky screen name and they've got more of a proper name, it means they're probably pretty good because they verified their account. So Toby Lewis plays on GG as Toby Lewis for obvious reasons. There's also Tanya McQuode. Don't know whether we know her. Roman Habeck. names I recognise that are there. Philippe Ketzer from Brazil. So anyway, we'll keep an eye on that and see what's going on. But
Lee, we have a chance here, right, to check our guests' knowledge. So we're gonna avoid Toby Lewis on this one. Come on, you've got to tell us, Chris. Which of these players do you think has the biggest winnings on GG Poker? So is that Nick Mamoni there? You've got Pablo Silva.
Yeah, from Canada. Yeah.
Come on. We'll check them all quickly. Who's got the biggest winnings?
I've not got a clue, but the Brazilians seem to crush on GG, so I'll go for Philippe Ketzer.
Okay, so we're going for Ketzer.
Let's have a look.
So we'll do him last, Lee. We'll do Ketzer last. My God. Oh, look at that. Is that 3 million, Lee? 3 million.
3 million.
Holy sweet Jesus.
Now, Toby is pretty sure. Toby's not a bit. I checked Toby earlier on. Toby's only 330,000.
No, it's 10%.
So a very small amount. So let's see what Pablo is then. 8 million is the other Brazilian. Other Brazilian is 8 million. Let's see. Our Canadian friend
he's got to have a few
10.4 million.
10 million online, Lee.
10.4 million.
That's from tournaments. Is that tournaments or what?
Yeah, that's tournaments. That's tournaments.
10 million.
Well, check out Tanya. 126,000. Nothing
still
to
good, though. You wouldn't sneeze about that, I tell you.
No. So then the other two, which obviously are Water Rabbit.
They haven't got names. They haven't got names, Lee.
They haven't got proper names. But let's check them out anyway. Water Rabbit, 2 million.
What?
Whoever Water Rabbit is
didn't qualify for a name.
2 million doesn't qualify for a
name. Do you know it's not his real name, Walter Rabbit?
Yeah, could be. Speaks with a lisp, maybe.
Yeah, 670,000 for Isavi 28 as well. So this is a pretty stacked tournament to be playing in. They're all. I'm imagining a lot of them have probably just flicked in to play this as an on live day one. If they make it through, they'll jet into London for the day 3 and just play that. So I would imagine that's the case. Yeah. So it's not for us mere mortals to be doing this kind of thing. Yeah,
I don't know, Lee. I'm still taking Brian Yates against any of them. Right, Brian Yates against any of them. Yeah. On that table.
Yeah. Now Simon Lawler's in the chat, and one at first, obviously, apart from the evening and mentioning him, he says, "But how much have they lost?" He says, "How much have they lost?"
I'm telling you one thing, Simon. Nick Mamone has not lost $10 million. I think I can say that with some degree of confidence. $10 million.
Yeah. It's very nice. Although, I mean, I don't know what the biggest sort of numbers you can win on GG, what their biggest stuff is, but I'm guessing that they'll run some high roller stuff there, which might have $1 million up top, something like that. Chris, maybe.
I've just been so wrapped up in Las Vegas last few weeks.
Any
notice online.
Yeah. But I'm guessing that would be about it. So to be winning 10 million on GG is you've got to consistently be getting results. That isn't just a one-off. Like what? That's not like a one drop. You've just you've won the lot and top of the kind of the cashing leaderboard for whatever. So.
So the Oracle thinks that 100K buy-ins do run, but I mean they've got to be pretty rare. Big festivals maybe, right? So of course you win a big GG online festival, you could wrap up a hell of a lot of money. But that's an insane table in terms of the total amount of online winnings that you're talking about. I mean, you could just sit and watch something like this, and you're going to learn something just from watching it. Cards and
I'm just looking now to see they do run a high roller, a 10K high roller, millions GG millions, possibly every week or maybe once a month. That's 10K buy-in. That's got $1 million guaranteed. So that's going to pay what?
200-300
100K, 150K maybe to the winner, maybe something like that, maybe a bit more than that. Yeah. So
yeah, I suppose it all adds up.
Interesting stuff.
Listen, Chris, as you quite rightly said, you have been wrapped up in other things this summer. You haven't been thinking about the online world. You have been all over the live world. So let's have a talk about Vegas. I'm sort of quite intrigued to see how you and Lee are going to bounce off each other, because you were over there. You certainly had a shared period, but you spent a long period of the summer over there, Chris. We spoke to you before you went. Tell us how long did you spend over there, and when did you come back?
So I was there for nearly enough 6 weeks. I flew out on the 12th of June, just after my son's birthday, and came back on the 19th of July. Yeah, it was a lot hotter this year than I've been in previous times I've been in Vegas. Like, never felt heat like it.
It's a global warming. Global warming. Don't sign up for next year, because if you thought this year was bad, wait till you go over there next year. I think the record in Vegas, as far as I remember it, and it's hit this on a number of years, was something like 117 degrees. And I think it hit it in 2005 when I was over there. And I remember walking from the Strip to the Rio, and I remember just hearing noises in my ear that it didn't actually feel that hot when you think of the numbers, but obviously it sounded like an oven, you would imagine would sound. So very, very hot over there, Chris. How did you find 6 weeks? Did you get any R&R at the end, or did you just do your stretch and then come back?
Well, I managed to fit in the 2 tournaments, and that was all, unfortunately. And I also played in the Robbie Stravinsky's Cash Game Festival at
nice.
Resort World.
Yeah.
But I was planning on playing the Midnight Crapshoot at MGM Grand on the night I was leaving. But unfortunately, it was closed for deep cleaning because all the players were getting bitten by mites. So the whole card room was shut down, and it was like pesticides just started to go down on the carpet. Shit balls.
They're not shooting at you one way, they're shooting at you another way, Leigh. Not my type of town at all. And you're thinking about going back again in November.
When I saw, anytime I ever saw Chris during the summer, he just looked bloody knackered, to be perfectly honest. I mean, really, really long days, and you got some pretty long tournaments to be covering, which kept you super busy, didn't it?
Yeah. So like the majority of tournaments I was covering, there was 10 a.m. starts, and like with some of them they were playing down to the money, and then they weren't finishing till about 1, 2 in the morning, and then I was back again the next day, 10 a.m. starts. So I was doing like 15 to 16-hour days some days, and then like getting back for as much sleep as I can, and then getting back out there.
How did you find it physically? And of course, rest is a big part of that in any event. But you're a big guy. You're not a small, wieldy guy. You're carrying weight around and stuff like that. You're a tall guy.
I'm fat. Let's just say it. I'm fat.
No. I didn't mean that at all. But you're a big guy, right?
Yeah.
We don't see too many big guys win the Tour de France, for example.
This is coming from a guy that's constantly asking for a medium t-shirt. That's all.
I'm a medium.
T-shirt. Yeah.
I'm a small to medium is what I like to think of myself, but medium for safety. Chris, you're probably a medium as well. We both know what we mean, right? But I guess my point is, physically, if you're on your feet all day, walking there and back and there and back and there and back, and you're in and out of the heat, start of the day, end of the day, and stuff like that, physically quite demanding, right? How did you find it across those 6 weeks?
First week I was fine. Like it was just jet lag, which was killing us a little bit. But after a couple of weeks, because you're pounding on the floors all day, like my right foot is still not recovered. It looks like if you took a close-up photo, it looks like a Grand Canyon at the moment. So, I'm flying to Turkey later this week, and I'll be getting a pedicure while I'm out there. And, my annual foot MOT. So.
Yeah, listen, if you've gone out to Turkey for a foot replacement operation, look, we can't encourage that type of behavior here. Yes, you might be able to get it for £150, right? But you're going to come back with all sorts of problems. That's all I'm saying. So tell me about your experience of updating, Chris. Was it fun at any point? Was it fun and then it just became like not fun? Or, how did you find the experience of doing the World Series of Poker this year?
There was one tournament in particular, which was the same tournament Vanessa Cade ran deep in, and it became one of the most frustrating tournaments I ever covered because there was 5 people left and there was only 80 big blinds in play, and I've never seen such tight nitty play at the final table.
Was this late? Was this late on in the series?
Yeah.
Chris?
So I can
because I think I mentioned it last week that Vanessa posted up. She'd had an absolute shocker of a series, and then all of a sudden kind of came good in literally the last day or the last but 1 days of the series. Yeah,
it was that tournament. Like she finished 8th, and then as soon as that happened, like when she was eliminated, everyone just knitted up and they were just trying to ladder. And one of the guy who finished runner-up was actually Eric Mizrachi, the lesser-known Mizrachi.
Oh, yeah. They're all good, those Mizrachis.
Yeah, but it was heads up, and there was only 40 big blinds left, I think, in play. I have never seen it go so shallow in a WSOP event in my life. Like it was the horse tournament was running next door, and they were getting more people eliminated in quicker fashion, which is a notoriously slow elimination tournament, and they couldn't believe that.
And your frustration, that's madness. Your frustration there, Chris, presumably is just get on with it. Let's knock some people out. Let's go home and come back again tomorrow, right?
Absolutely. Like we're the Grim Reapers at the tables. We're just looking for eliminations, really. Like it should have finished around about 10 p.m. and it didn't finish till about 2:30 in the morning. It was just really frustrating.
Do you remember? I think was it the first Players Championship? That it was like the heads up went on for about 10 hours or something ridiculous like that. The 50,000 Players Championship, the first time that I think maybe Chip Reese might have won it. I think it took 10 hours to do it heads up. Leigh, we've never been that unlucky with APAT, right? What is the worst finish we've ever had?
What do you mean we've never been that unlucky with APAT?
I don't think we have.
Simon Lawler's just reminded everyone of the one I was thinking of, which was a horse event in 2012.
Was that John M.W. and Andrew Tracy?
With John. Yeah, it was John.
Oh, I was there. That wasn't bad at all. That only went to about 5 a.m. Come on.
That went on for a bloody long time.
Yeah, I remember that. I was there.
Yeah, I really did. Yeah.
I was there. Yeah.
It certainly did. No, but I know exactly what Chris is talking about, because I mean, as much as we're very jovial with APAT streams, when we're kind of 6 or 7 hours deep into an APAT stream on a final day, and you just now want the thing over. And of course, for the players that are playing, it's the biggest, most important part of the tournament for them. They're either down to 3 or they're heads up or whatever they're in. And when you're reporting on it or you're streaming, you do get to a point where you just go, will somebody please end this somehow? I don't care how you do it, just end this. Which is obviously not fair on the players, because obviously they're only playing the hands they've got given, and sometimes these things can just drag out, can't they?
Yeah. But like some of the playable was just terrible from a textbook point of view. Like a guy raised 35% of his stack and then he got shoved on and then folded. And like, why didn't he just min raise?
Wow.
He's trying to ladder, Chris. He's trying to ladder.
But like sacrificing like a third of your stack, it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Do you think was that because it was end of series and everybody was a bit knackered by the whole thing, or I mean, what is that?
Potentially, but I think the big thing is that a lot of the players on the final table were inexperienced, I think. Right. And the guy who actually won it in the end, he was the only one who showed any aggression throughout the final table. Aggression wins tournaments at the end of the day.
Absolutely right. Throw Matt Carter in there. Matt Carter, Brian Yates, come on. Tony Trips. Throw any of those players in there. They've just sorted it, Leigh. That have just razored through that field, taken the money, left. Big tip. Happy days.
It was a very, I thought it was a very mild-mannered series in general from what I played. Didn't seem to be a huge amount of kind of aggro or needle with a lot of it. It just kind of the series. Maybe it's because it was so busy and there was so much going on. I mean, what was your take on it, Chris? Obviously, the numbers were just through the roof. But how did you find it as a series? You updated last year as well. So how which was at Paris and what was Bally's then, which is obviously now the Horseshoe. So so how would you compare last year to this year?
Well, you could tell that there was more people there than last year. That was the first thing I said out. Some of the lines that I've seen, like just being alternates, just trying to get into tournaments. I've never seen queues like it. I mean, like must have been about half a mile long at points, some of the lines. But I think some of the scheduling needs to be looked at next year, because organising a 7-seat tournament at the same time as the main event was a massive error, I think, because you just took away like 20% of the capacity of the room just by putting that event on, and that caused a lot of mayhem.
Do you think there's a case for obviously so many events on, but for maybe they need to seriously look at that and go, well, actually, we could probably take 10% of the events out, free up a bit more capacity for the really popular events, and make sure we can cover those off capacity wise. Is it just that it does need a proper review? Were they surprised? I mean, obviously you get to see a little bit more behind the scenes as working for PokerNews. Was general surprise at the numbers, or was it what they were expecting?
I think it was probably what they're expecting with the amount of people who satellited into the main event through GG Poker thing. I think it was like in the hundreds that they sent across. So that would have given it a natural uplift. But I have heard Norman Chad say that there is scope of extra capacity next year. There's actually an identical ballroom at Horseshoe above, so they could potentially have another ballroom open next year for extra capacity.
Bloody hell.
Oh right, okay.
Do you see that happening again next year, Leigh? Do you see the numbers going up? I mean, what's your take on that?
I don't see any reason not. As I said on the show last week, if they can, there's certain things that they need to fix, and this late registration alternates line is the one, and it just needs a bit of technology. That's all it needs, just a little bit of technology in there. Everywhere else runs an alternate number list where you have, you actually have you have your alternate number, and then they call you by that number, whereas the series just get you to just stand in line and you have to wait for hours. So if they can resolve that, I think there's no reason why they can't then deal with the capacity numbers that they had for this year, and then there's no reason why that couldn't increase. We're seeing on the back of lockdown and the kind of increase in players playing online, people are wanting the live poker experience, and it's not just at the series; it's absolutely everywhere. APAT numbers this year have been absolutely through the roof, absolutely flying. You only have to look at the numbers that are already at something like Goliath already this weekend. First 2 day ones of that in Coventry. We're there next weekend for the APAT Open Championship. But they did over 1,200 on Saturday. They've done over 1,300 today. It's just absolutely crazy. So there's clearly a demand there. So I don't see any reason why. As I say, if they can iron out the little the little issues, and Chris is quite right. The lines were just ridiculous. They can resolve that, which then makes a better player experience. Then there's no reason for players not to come back. Players don't seem to have an issue with the rake and the reg fees and and all that side of it. They seem quite happy. I think it was heading up to nearly half of the buy-ins were now on Bravo, something along those lines. Which obviously there's a little bit of a fee for that as well. Even more of a fee if you're not in the States. So if you're using a card from anywhere else in the world, the percentage goes up again a little bit. So that's all. Obviously, that's being covered with the cost of the payment processing and all of that. But still, I'm guessing there's a bit of margin in there as well for them. So it's all the numbers are there to suggest that it's kind of money making. So I don't see why it wouldn't increase. That's for sure.
Yeah. Listen, Tony G's
the
out there. Sorry, go ahead, Chris.
The WSOP just loves bureaucracy. Like I did a min cash in one of the daily deep stacks, and I haven't had to jump through so many hoops for $300 in my life. Like once you got your ticket, you then had to go to the pay cage, and then you had to sign this document, then show your driver's license, then they escorted you to the pay cage to then actually get paid.
I'll tell you a little story about my one cash from the trip, which wasn't even a real cash because it doesn't show on Hendemol because it was just some bounties. So I picked up a couple of bounties in the $1,000 a bounty event. So I think they were $300 ones. So I picked up about $600. So you get the 2 little tokens. So they open up the bounty payouts sort of about 7 o'clock. 6-7 o'clock in the evening. So once late reg is closed and they've cleared all that, so you basically go and you go through the same process.
Hey, Lee, can you hear us? I think we've lost your audio.
Yeah,
Oh, you're back.
Really?
You're back. How weird. Yeah, we
So,
lost you there for about 30 seconds.
Great. Oh, really? So you're there, and they've got five cashiers in the payout area that's sorting out these bounties. So you turn up with your tokens and you hand them over, and then what I watched happen in front of me is she plots down a pile of paper, sort of this thick paper, and gets your name and starts thumbing through this list now. Eventually finds you, and basically it's a complete list of everybody that's played in that tournament. These sheets of paper. So I mean, I don't know. Can you remember, Chris, how many played in the $1,000 buy-in bounty? It's going to be a silly number, isn't it? You know.
It was in the thousands.
Yeah, in the thousands for each day one. So she eventually finds me. Right, she signs off on it. She signs off on it. She puts in how much it is. I then have to sign the piece of paper as well, and eventually she pays me the money. So I'm chatting away to her, going, "Crikey, this is it's a bit manual, isn't it?" She said, "Yeah, it's not great." So I'm surprised they haven't got some sort of technology for this. She said, "What's even worse is," she said, "there's 5 of us doing this, and we all have to share the same list."
They've got to pass the pile around.
So they pass the list back and forth between them.
God,
so, wow. And if you can imagine, probably each day, because I think it was a couple of day ones, and actually it might have actually just been one day one, actually, that particular comp. But you think, so how many players probably win a bounty in that? I have no idea what the actual number is, but I'm guessing maybe a third of the field, maybe pick up a bounty, probably something like that. That probably feels about right to me. That's a hell of a lot of people they're having to process through with that completely manual process. And of course, that wasn't the only bounty tournament they had. They'll have had a number of them, and it's exactly the same process. I was listening to the Triton stream earlier on, and Michelle there was telling a story about how Phil Ivey was playing one of those this summer, and he won a couple of bounties and got told, "Well, you've got to wait till 7 o'clock to claim your bounties, Phil." And he went and literally gave him to the floor guy and went, "Yeah, yeah,
here you go.
You can have them." Yeah, I'm not really bothered about it. Yeah, just a crazy, a crazy process, and that's how manual it is. Now I understand the payout system, and I know what Chris is saying about what you have to jump through hoops. Obviously, that's a lot of that is driven by the American tax system in the paperwork that's required for that. If you're playing in the UK, we obviously we don't tax any of those winnings, so pretty much they're just interested in paying you out and a little bit of kind of know your customer and kind of money laundering kind of cover to make sure that there's no issue with any of that. Other than that, that's all you need. Obviously, when you're out in Vegas, it's a different world altogether, and we're quite lucky with poker in that it's a $5,000 limit before they start filling out tax paperwork. If you win on the slots out in Vegas, it's $1,200. If you win a jackpot, if you win more than $1,200 on one spin on any slot machine out in Vegas, they're filling paperwork out. Basically, an attendant gets called and they're filling paperwork out for you for it for anything over $1,200. And it doesn't matter if you've sat there and I suppose fed the machine with $1,200 and then won a spin with it. No, they'll deduct 30% and you stick it on your tax return. It's just bonkers, absolutely bonkers. And of course, if you're from the UK, and obviously we've got a tax treaty, but if you haven't got an ITIN number already, I don't know if it's $1,200, so they're deducting 30%, so $400. I'm not even sure whether you could justify doing an American tax return for that. It'd cost you more to get the tax return done. So you probably just go, don't worry about it. and eventually, American tax system will scoop that extra bit of money, which is seems crazy, doesn't it? But that's the way they work.
That was a very, very sad story to what had started with as a big positive of lots of people playing poker. Going into the old chatty box, Tony G has joined us and said Goliath would be able to do even more if they had the space and dealers too. Poker very much booming. He's quite right. That's everything that we're seeing. One of your mates, maybe, Chris, Diggy Don, 33, on the Twitch. Magic Chris.
That I'm guessing is probably my colleague Dom, who was in shared a house with us in Vegas.
Oh, sweet.
superb.
Very nice. Did you guys have a pool
Don
out there?
Accountant,
Chris, did you have a pool?
a
A sauna even?
We
A
had a
bath?
bucket.
Maybe you had a bath.
we had a shower.
A shower. Oh, that's not very good for it. I was going to say not very good for entertainment. Very small, Chris. So Diggy Don out there watching in. Simon asked, did you find most players were helpful to updaters? It's a good question.
Yeah, some were. Some provided a full hand history for you if you only jumped in halfway through the hand, and some gave good feedback. Then you got people like ODB, Older Berger. He had PokerNews guts for garters this year. Any little slip up, he was on it on Twitter, and
What's the point?
He must have pulled us up about 50 times during the summer. I think he was more annoyed that all the people who were in the 25k fantasy, or it's called, all those players weren't getting updated to his satisfaction, so he knew how his team was getting on.
Got it. Hey, there's an opportunity there for us, Lee. We got to figure that one out, right, for next year, right? Big tips from ODB. Ace is there. Evening all on a late tomorrow, so get to sit and watch for once. Good news for you, Asa. Nothing quite like a bit of a lion in the morning. Even if the lion isn't that late, it's still better than needing to be at work for 6 a.m. or needing to be up at 6 a.m. more to the point. So let me see who else we have down here. The ITIN situation, Lee. Simon has mentioned this, of course, very much related to what we were talking about. Do you know if that's sorted? Has that become any smoother?
No, they won't do it for you even at the series now. It's as simple as that. They're not interested. So what I can confirm is that the kind of the rumor about if you haven't used your item for 3 years it'll be void or anything like that is kind of nonsense, really. What I kind of assumed would be the case, which is that they've got no way of checking it, seems to pretty much be the case. So as long as you've still got one and you provide the paperwork, then they will not withhold your tax. So it's okay from that point of view. So I can confirm from personal experience that is very much the case. So if you've already got one, then it's kind of good for forever, I think, pretty much.
Yeah.
That's the way it is. But yeah, and I know they weren't doing them for the series because one of the guys from LPPL who I mentioned the other week, who had a super deep run in the Colossus, I think it was, and won about 30 odd thousand. Got unfortunately had his tax withheld.
Listen, we have one viewer out there, Lee. He's new to the channel. He's called Simon Broke. Simon Broke said, I had nearly $2,000 withdrawn or withheld in 2018. Still wasn't worth the hassle of reclaiming it. That's from a Mr. Simon Broke.
More money than that's why he's broke, isn't it?
But that's like bad, because you're right. The US government are collecting quite a lot of surplus funds there.
It's really difficult. I'm just looking at other stuff now. I see. So Simon Law says, I saw tax people in the corridor. Yeah, there are 2 or 3 companies that will offer their services whilst you're out there. I used a when I needed to get mine done back in 2015. I used a company in London that charged me about £600, something like that at the time. But I was claiming about three and a half thousand, so it was worthwhile doing as a one-off, and then and then it's done. But it is very difficult. If you say that the slots one is the interesting one, I wasn't aware that it was only $1,200, and until it was 1 o'clock in the morning in the Horseshoe, and I needed to find out that it was $1,200.
The reality is, you're gonna lower your stake value, right? Because you probably don't want to break through that $1,200 limit.
That's the difficult thing, isn't it? So I don't know what you say as someone from the UK. I don't know what you do. When I was over in the Win one day, waiting for Paul was playing a poker tournament. I'd already bust it very, very quickly, and a couple behind me won $12,000 from a slot machine. Absolutely, chuffed to bits to them. They were absolutely loving it. They were phoning friends and family, and all whilst they were sorting it all out. But of course, they obviously, they were Americans, so they straight away just get it taxed. They get it deducted straight away. Obviously, from the UK. Yeah, if you were just out there to Vegas and happened to win $1,201 on a slot machine in one spin, and they deduct 30%, I don't know, are you bothered, or do you just go, oh well, I'll just treat it as being $900 instead and not worry about it? I don't know what you do, because it's not. It isn't worth the effort for claiming about $300 unless you're going to go out more regularly, and therefore it's worth doing just to get your ITIN sorted. But it's a difficult one to know what the right thing is. But the $1,200 thing is just nuts. It's absolutely nuts with no record. At least with the poker, it's $5,000 net as well. So they take into account whatever you've bought into that tournament for as well when they work that out. But as I say, at the series now, they used to do that sort of thing for you, and they don't. I'm not sure whether many of the casinos do, because I'm guessing if the series aren't doing it, then probably a lot of the other casinos are in a similar position now where they're not doing that.
Listen, Mr. Wigglesworth's out there, and he, in a feels like a slightly predatory way, he says, I have a feeling Chris was the man who was trying to help me out with issues I had with my stack.
I think he's referring to the MyStack app.
The MyStack app. Right, I thought he meant, well, you know what I thought. Dear.
I don't remember Pete. I don't ever remember Pete having a stack the size where he needed somebody to help him out with the stack. I don't remember that in Vegas. Definitely not.
I knew it couldn't be that, Lee. I mean, obviously.
I mean, yeah. I mean, if it'd been Linda Waniak, every doubt, because
steady on, Lee. Steady on, so, please. What are you saying?
I think that is probably the third most common query I get is like people can't update the MyStack, and it's not because we haven't pressed the button in the back end. Yeah. So I'm always the one that fixes it.
Oh no. How about this? This sounds intriguing, Simon. I saw tax people in the corridors on the World Series of Poker vlogs. Not value for money. What the hell? What's that?
Yeah, no. So that's just the companies that are in the corridor that are offering tax services. So I think Chris updated one of my tournaments. He was very grateful when he saw me sat down at a tournament. He said, "Great, somebody I know, so I can do some hands or whatever." Except
you weren't there on his next sweep.
I wasn't there for long, to be perfectly honest. Although I think I was there long enough for you to get the PokerNews photographers over. So I've got a couple of very professional shots of me at the poker table. So you've got to do. You have to be. You see them coming, so then you've just got to pretend that you haven't seen them coming. So it looks all natural. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I must have hung over your table 10, 11 times to get a hand, and it was just.
Couldn't get a winning hand anywhere.
So there was me right at this table. I was the one end of the table with Chris coming over and briefly, and they go, "Oh, this guy knows the PokerNews guys." And then the other end of the table was a French guy that was having a documentary done about him. Yeah, so the table was just in awe. We've got these two guys that are at our table. This one's got a documentary, and the other guy is he's proper pally with the PokerNews guys. I mean, it's what's going on?
Oh dear. Listen, Asa, some good news. Sat it into the Sunday Million on Star's first go. Not played it in years. About 250 to go to hit the cash. Nice going, Asa.
Oh, good.
Nice going. Bit of good news. Pete said, I originally got my ITIN on a slot machine in the Venetian, $2,700 jackpot. It's worked out on the stake and how many times the jackpot is and it sort of the whole post stops there. Hit maybe was the word.
Well, I know. Well, however they used to do it, it is a very simple $1,200. So if you you don't even need to hit a jackpot. If you spin on one spin and it comes in at more than $1,200, then basically the machine freezes. An attendant gets called, and they will go and do paperwork, and they literally hand you the cash once they've done the paperwork there, and then they release the machine and away to go.
Just hold it there. Just hold it there. Mr. Broke has said Biden is trying. So Crooked Joe Lee is trying to raise the 1,200 5K limits. Fantastic. Right. Let's move the hell off of the World Series of Poker for a little while.
Good. We don't want Trump in. Let's keep Biden in then. That's what we want.
Let's Crooked Joe, right? So I don't know if either of you guys saw this, but the first Iowa Republican sort of, I don't know what the hell you'd call it. It's almost entertainment. I've always seen it as entertainment. About 14 Republicans. One of them is going to be, the eventual candidate to face.
Yeah. I
Crooked
watched this
Joe
the other day.
or Dossie, whoever. Fantastic. Some interesting characters up there. Now, I've learned that the most important thing that you say when you're the Republican candidate, you've got to say, I'm doing this for God, right? Because if you don't vote for me, God's going to come and strike you down, right? You've got to say something akin to that. That's really important, right? Ideally, you'll have committed some serious crimes, because that shows that you're a man of substance. There is one woman in there, but you're a man of substance if you create some serious crimes. There is a guy called Vivek or Ramashanwani, or I don't. First time I'd seen him, I was super impressed. What an orator this guy is. Created $1 or $2 billion companies. He's only 37, so he's the youngest ever Republican candidate for president. And seriously strong talker. But Trump, with 46% of the expected vote in Iowa, still somehow sailing out there. How does that work, guys? Help me with this.
I can't explain it.
Come on, Lee. Yeah, you're an intelligent guy. Help me with this. Chris?
But the problem is, a lot of the American Central Belt are not very bright.
That's what the Vivek guy said, right? Because he's very direct. He answers everything. He said, I got to be honest. I like Trump, and I like a lot of his policies. He didn't go far enough, in my opinion, and when I become president, I will go a lot further with his policies, right? But he said the problem with Trump is 30% of the US population become mentally unbalanced when he is president. So we can't get on in the scenario that Trump is president, because 30% of people, some Republicans, some Democrats, they just go nuts because Trump is president. So he said, you've got to vote for me instead, because I'll do the same things, much worse, and I'll bring everyone together. Brilliant. He had my vote. I mean, I'm ready to go all in on this bloke, Lee. Right? The next season of the APAT show, I'm going to put this guy in the artwork somehow.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I think at the moment it's not going to be anything other than Trump is going to end up candidate there. I think.
But he's going to prison, isn't he? He's going to prison, Lee. How can
he though? Really? Is he really?
He's got to be going to prison, Lee. He's done a lot of bad things.
Oh, I'm not sure whether he will. They'll find a way around it, or they'll drag it out long enough that if he gets back in as president again, then he can basically pardon himself, can't he? I think that's pretty much how it works. So, won't be. But it's going to be, mightily interesting to see how it's all going to play out. And it's certainly going to give us content for a good while to go. It got us through lockdown, and it's gonna come again.
Cannot wait. I'm more excited about this than I am Oppenheimer, which I haven't seen yet. Listen, our favorite blue-blooded woman, right, Di, is out there. So already pre-regged for Saturday Coventry. We need to talk about that, Lee. Apparently, we've got an event in Coventry next weekend. Look forward to finally getting my medal. Tom Brady will have that on his agenda of things to do, Lee. I'm sure.
So you say Tom Brady's got it on a chain. around his neck at the moment.
He'll have it on the front of his Mercedes on the way going up to Coventry. The flies and everything on it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, Tom's. I mean, Tom's. He's doing a stop off via London actually. So he's going to pop into the WSOP.
Is he playing anything, Lee?
On the way through? I think he might be. Yeah.
Really?
So he might well be. Yeah.
Wow. So he's a decent player. Tom is a proper player.
He's very Tom.
Yeah, he's a proper player.
Yeah. None of the
awesome.
Proper.
So Simon says it's been the same for the last 20 years. I'm not sure whether we're talking about ITIN, American politics, or Tom's being a proper player. Could be any of those.
Tax stuff, I'm going to guess. Yeah, tax stuff, I'm going to guess.
Yeah,
so,
rather cheekily.
We should say, yeah. Oh, yeah, the trophy is ridiculous. I don't know how she got that back in her luggage.
It was just
huge. Absolutely nuts. Yeah, absolutely nuts. But we bumped into Linda one absolutely random. Paul and I were walking back up the strip from the either the Venetian or the Wynn, and we just decided to walk back up the strip at, I don't know, it's about 11 o'clock at night, something like that. And we're walking up, and we're kind of getting nearly opposite the Mirage, and Linda's there.
Are you sure, Lee?
Are you
sure, Lee?
Yeah.
Are you sure it wasn't
and don't
a mirage.
Even go there, Des. Don't
a mirage, Lee. A mirage.
Yeah, I know. So Linda's there, and she's just stood on the strip. So,
she's dancing for trophies.
Chano, what are you doing? And she was stood waiting for the volcano to go off.
Waiting for an eruption.
Because she said, I just want to see it one more time, because obviously it's going.
What? The volcano's going?
The volcano is going because the Mirage is turning into the Hard Rock. So Hard Rock now own the Mirage, and they're turning it into the Hard Rock. It's going to be a great big electric guitar. It's one of the last times, and so she just wanted to see it for one more time before it no longer became a thing anymore. So it's going to be a few changes around. I thought it was a really sweet thing, really nice thing that obviously Linda's been out to Vegas loads of times, and it's just aware that these things things do change and things are moving on, and
she has huge time for Linda, best in the world. She's missed a trick, though. She should have taken that trophy downtown to the Pawn Stars little store there. Should have taken that thing in. She wanted to speak to Chumley. Tell me what's the history of that. She said, well, it's English, like it was from my forefathers. It came across the ocean on the Bounty or something. She could have got like $400 or $500 for that.
I thought you could say she should have put a bid in for the volcano. I thought that's where you were going to go with it. She could have chipped it back.
What's happening to the old Hard Rock? They're going to have two Hard Rocks?
The old Hard Rock doesn't exist anymore, does it?
Doesn't it? Is that gone?
Yeah, it's now a Virgin.
It's Virgin.
Was it Virgin in Las Vegas?
Virgin Hotel. Yeah.
Come
on, Des. Come on,
I never stayed there, Lee. I've never been there.
But so you come on, you're a Formula One guy.
Yeah.
So the Virgin Hotel, which used to be the Hard Rock, is one of the big venues for the Formula One.
How's that then?
Right. That's right.
Are they going through Are they going through the atrium?
Yeah, that's right where it's right where the kind of the pits and the start finish line.
It's like New York with the roller coaster.
Yeah,
it's going to go right through there.
No, it's there's a whole section there which Virgin Hotel.
I didn't even know there was a Virgin Hotel in Vegas, Lee. To be honest, I'll be perfectly honest with you. What the hell is a Virgin Hotel? Virgin hotels now?
There's about 10 of them. They're quite boutique hotels around the world. But the one in Vegas it's right where next to where the track's going to be, and there's old seating areas around it and everything. So quite impressive. Yeah.
So is it a casino?
No, there's no casino there.
It's just a hotel.
Is there a casino there? I didn't think there was a casino there.
Yeah, there's a casino there, and there's also a Betfred Sportsbook.
Okay.
Wow. Honestly,
so it's kind of down the road. It's down the road from the corner of where Planet Hollywood is. I'm not sure what the street is that runs down off the strip down the side of Planet Hollywood. It's basically the Virgin Hotel is further down that road.
Was Hooters then Hard Rock, now Virgin? I mean,
Hooters
wow.
is now Oyo, which is just opposite Tropicana.
I mean, somewhere there's a funny line about going from Hooters to Hard Rock to Virgin, but I
To
can't
be honest, Lee,
I can't work out what it is.
I didn't want to go there. But I do feel it probably deserves one of these. Oh, it definitely deserves one of those, right? Because it was deep. It was deep.
Yeah.
Las Vegas branding. I mean, Hooters to Hard Rock to Virgin.
Yeah. So basically, so Hard Rock now own the Mirage, and they are, and they're basically rebranding it up as. I'm not sure whether they're keeping any of the Mirage, but certainly that it's going to be. It'll have a Hard Rock.
I tell you,
kind of everything.
There was something on Vegas on the telly fairly recently, and I pointed at the strip to Sean, and I said, "It was the bloomin' poker. It was poker." I said, "Look there, Sean. Look there. That's the Monte Carlo. We stayed there, right?" And she went, "Well, it's not, because the Monte Carlo was on the other side. It was on the other side of the strip. You're on the wrong side. We were looking at that. We weren't." Ah, yeah, right, okay. Detail.
Yeah.
And the Monte Carlo's now Park MGM.
Yeah, I didn't go there. But she told me it wasn't the Monte Carlo any longer. I mean, I was pointing at it. I said, "That's the Monte Carlo." It wasn't a question of whether it's still there or not. I mean, I wasn't even pointing at the right building.
That sounds about right.
I get allowances for that sort of
but anyway,
stuff.
so basically the Formula One is kind of the behind all of the hotels. That's where all the kind of the core, the decent corner sections and that kind of thing are. Obviously, the strip, it's straight down the strip, but then it goes down, say, loops round past the Virgin Hotel, and then the other corner is kind of where the new Sphere is, and then it's kind of all everything in between. So it should be quite.
That
will be
looks,
quite impressive.
Do you have an announcement to make, Lee, on November? Do you have anything you want to start and tell us or anything? No announcements yet? No?
Not really.
No announcements yet.
Yeah.
Ron, I have something slightly related for you both now. As Simon says, Tropicana Road, right? So he's responding to you. Which road is that? I mean, who knows, right? But Tropicana Road. So I happened to watch last night and really enjoyed it. There's a new Wham documentary, and I promise
I watched that.
Just take that exactly as it's
very good. No, it
on
is,
Netflix.
Go,
fantastic,
very
right?
Good. Very,
brilliant,
very good. Yeah.
Wham. Have you heard of Wham, Chris? You're only a young lad.
I know Wham. I am young, but Wham are like a generational jumping band.
Yeah, is it on Tropicana Road? Drinks are
Chris,
free.
I was only joking, right? You got to be at least in your mid-40s, right? Come on.
You cheeky bastard.
Chris, I was only joking. Both of those were jokes, Chris, right? But it was fantastic. So George Michael, Andrew Ridgeley, how they met, showed. I was going to say the early years of Wham, but in reality, Wham only had
the years of Wham.
They only had early years, right?
Yeah,
showed the whole thing.
There was
3 years. Incredible to watch it, because I spent a lot of time back there in the late 80s and 90s and stuff. Whenever you think about Wham, and their music lasted tremendously, thinking, well, Andrew Ridgeley was given a free ride, right? All of the talent was on the other side of the band. Andrew Ridgeley was given a free ride. Never came across as being as genuine as George Michael and stuff like that. And I actually came out of that documentary last night thinking, do you know what? No pun intended, but he was given a bit of a bum rap, because actually George Michael might not have had any success. He might never have been a singer had it not been for Andrew Ridgeley. That came across to me out of that. Lee, I don't know if you took that.
I absolutely exactly that, and I don't think the documentary was kind of aimed to go that way, or wrong any or right any wrong, should I say?
Not at all.
But I don't think it was aimed at that. But it just told it as is, and actually even George Michael himself made the point. At the time he was following everything that he was doing, and so. Yeah, wouldn't have been anything like he was if it hadn't have been for his influence early on and the drive that he had. And so and I thought what was beautiful about it is when they decided to split, Yeah, when they interviewed him at the time, actually everything that he said, which you thought, is that really no, it was genuine. It was just he
no
knew it was the
question.
right time, and he knew it was the right thing to do, and you think, well, that's what a grown up proper thing to do when you've had 3 or 4 years of a roller coaster success journey, and you're prepared to go, okay, that's kind of done its thing.
It sort
and
of
you're not clinging on for it. You're not holding on to try and make it last longer. You're just going, no, that's it. Yeah.
It struck me how difficult this must have been for Ridgely, because it showed a lot of little interview clips and stuff. And at that time, everybody would look him up and down and sort of saying, well, it must be difficult for you with George, leaving. Well, what are you going to do now? The guy had to face this probably for months. And, if even I, as a whippersnapper in the west of Ireland back then, was sort of thinking, he's been carried. This guy's reputation within the music industry must have been like pretty thin. Did remarkably well. I thought not to... I thought
the little piece he talked about at Live Aid. So when George Michael went on and performed with Elton John, and he was and Ridgely was just like basically in the back doing backing vocals. And he said, "Oh, it was really nice of George to ask me to pop on, but that's all I really wanted, because this was very much his moment and his time, and that was genuine. He wasn't just that was loved to be there and experience it, but." It wasn't about him, and he knew that, and he was. I thought, it was really certainly went up in my my kind of estimations very much.
Just as Peter Wigglesworth has gone up in my estimations, Lee. A bit like Des and Lee. Des always carrying the Welshman.
Harsh. That's absolutely harsh.
Just, include me in your staking group for next year, Pete. Right, I'll look after you. Okay.
I wouldn't recommend it, Des, to be perfectly honest with you. Not from
he knows the updaters, right? As long as you get significant media coverage for us.
Yeah, it'd be fun. His vlogs are very good, though. Actually, he does give his stakers good value in feedback and info.
Hello.
I will.
Lee Wilshire is like.
For sure.
Andrew, to you, Des Duffy being George. I think it feels like my crowd is in tonight, Lee. It's not always my crowd. In fact, it's very rarely my crowd. But they're in. They're coming out for me. It's because all of the bloody talking you've done in the last week, right? You go and ask Frank Bailey, right? It's just yap, 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 yap all the time. Me.
I was simply last week suggesting where I thought the World Series could improve on their efforts for the summer. And I think the truth is, Chris, having you were there and experienced it, is the numbers were great. It was a great summer, but it could be so much better again, couldn't it?
Oh yeah, I mean, everything is very much analog to WSOP, and it just baffles me from like a tech background that I come from, that they haven't even got. I mean, the clock that they're using is like technology from 25 years ago, and everything else is that old. I mean, WSOP.com, that is a shocking website, poker software. Like it's like it's software from 2002, and like they've still got in the background images the real. So I haven't even bothered to update that.
It's amazing, isn't it?
They just need to move with times, yeah.
For just mega. US corporation, which is what they are. I mean, we shouldn't see the World Series of Poker as a bunch of guys, out doing their thing. I mean, this is a huge US corporation.
It's a full-time, all year round job.
It's huge.
I mean, it's absolutely insane. And I mean, I don't know whether anybody actually does stack up and work out what the sort of income that they get from the series, but I mean, it wouldn't be difficult to do, because I guess all the information's in the public domain, so you could easily work out what all the reg fees tot up to. But I dread to think the sums of money that they bring in the way of reg fees for the series. It just must be off the scale.
I think we worked it out in the office. I think just the main event alone, they made $12 million.
Wow.
In rec. So
I mean, it takes 2 or 3 events for us to no, it doesn't even work as a joke. That
I saw the usual thing where I think Barry Carter was the first to do it, but I know a number of the sites, I think PokerNews did it as well, where they work through the tax implications of the final table.
My
on
God.
what it was worth. And I think the IRS were kind of the biggest earners from that final table, because of course it ended up being 3 Americans, 1, 2, and 3, taking the fair share of the money.
Yeah.
So of course they're all getting heavily taxed on it. I think the 2 Brits and the German player didn't have any tax whatsoever, and then it varies from country to country. It does beg the question when you're talking about that sort of money, and there was a lot of talk about whether a deal was done on that final table. I mean, I was convinced when some of the hands played out that it had to have been done, but they've suggested that it wasn't. That wasn't a thing. But it does beg the question with the tax implications when you get to the final table. I'm sure if I sat there at the final table and crunched through the numbers, I could find an optimal kind of way for it to be chopped that would benefit everybody, and then you just play for the bracelet. Surely, I'm surprised nobody's ever sat and worked it out and gone right. Well, actually, if we put the 2 Brits and the German first, second, and third, and then stagger everybody else down, but then do an ICM chop post tax, there's probably a good way of making this work where the tax man doesn't get that much of it. But is there anything? There's nothing to stop that from happening, is there? Surely not.
The whole
does it have to be? I don't know whether does it have to be an ICM chop, Chris, or can it be whatever it gets negotiated?
Well, it would have to be up to them, because WSOP doesn't facilitate any deals. So it would have to be agreed with the players internally, and then do you trust someone else for many millions of dollars?
So WSOP don't facilitate deals at all?
Not at all. No, everything's have to be off the table. So
proper organisations do that, isn't it? It's only the proper organisations. Yeah. I didn't realize that was a thing. So basically, anything that is done is very much going to have to be a kind of that politically not correct gentleman's agreement, because obviously that isn't. But yeah, that's how it works. Okay,
Leigh, I have 2 questions. First of all, can you name me our favorite Kazakhstan player?
Yes, and his name's completely.
That's shocking.
Andre Tin.
Andre Tin is watching the stream. Andre,
excellent.
Hope you're well, sir. Hope you're well. Second question, same sort of vein. Can anybody remember who that guy up there is again? I mean, it was just such a
Daniel Wyman.
Andrew Winmain. Andrew Winmain.
Yeah. Yep. But Daniel was the first player I covered to win a bracelet at last year's main event, last year's WSOP. So I spoke to him for a couple of minutes after he won his first bracelet, and so keep an eye out on the people I covered this year for maybe winning it next year.
Yeah, well, let's hope so. Lovely guy, and I have to say there was a really good atmosphere at that final table. As you know, everybody's pretty much earning big money at that point. You'd maybe expect that, but I think he came across as being a sterling bloke. But I won't remember any of the American players in particular for their play. And I'm not quite sure. I watched bits of it here and there. I watched more than enough to form an opinion, but it just seemed like, I don't know, nobody dominated, nobody really went for it. It just sort of happened. I found it remarkable that the last 3 players were the 3 players that they were, because I just thought there was more aggression and just more variance in games from other players at that final table. Maybe it's just the way it ran out.
Daniel Wyman's very well respected in the American poker game, and I think he was a deserving winner. The other 2 Americans, I didn't really know much about them, but to punt off as many big lines as I did, it was beggars belief, especially the pocket 8 against Wyman's aces. The guests in the room who were watching it, because I was in the Paris ballroom at the time, it sounded like a football match when they missed a penalty. That's what it sounded like in the room. I think it was 82 big blinds
When the river card, I was in Paris when the river card hit. I have never seen anything like that. Every single person in the Paris ballroom who was playing poker, and it was full, was watching the big screen because it was on a delay from and when that river card hit, literally the air was sucked in. People were just like that. Can't believe that hit. It was incredible. To watch.
It was to have gone through so many days, and I guess this is why people thought there were deals done, because it played out so quickly at the end. But let's talk briefly about the two Brits that made the final table, Chris. And before we do this, I mean, how involved were you with the main event? How many days did you do, or were you on events outside of the main? Because there was a ton of stuff happening.
Yeah, I didn't do any main event coverage whatsoever. Yep. I was on the seniors, I was on the super seniors, and did the Hall of Fame bounty.
So when the main event was down to two tables, because we were in there railing, so they were down to two tables, and Chris was in that room, but he was updating on the which one was it you were doing at that point, Chris?
That would have been the Hall of Fame bounty.
That was the Hall of Fame bounty, which was down to about 50 or 60 runners, I think, when the main event was down to two tables. So you were on the side, because I remember coming over and talking to you, and so Chris is in the room when all of this is going on, but actually can't have any focus on the biggest things that's going on, because you're focusing on this on the job. Yeah.
So Mr. Lewis. Mr. Lewis and Mr. Hutchison, right? Obviously watched pretty much all of their play. The opening day of the final table. What do we think? I mean, Toby was quite standoffish, and I suppose he's sort of thinking that's not the right expression. And he was very similar the day before. He was quite cautious, and I guess there's so much money up top that the last thing you want to do is exit. But it appeared that he was pushed off a lot of hands that actually, he was ahead in. Is that Toby's game generally? Because a lot of people, when he got down to those last 2 days, thought for sure Toby's experience would give him an outstanding chance to do well. Now, is a comment like that sort of saying, well, Toby's going to stay calm and patient, pick his spots? I was always taught that you try and see what everybody else is doing and you try and do something differently. Whereas actually it didn't seem like there was a huge amount of aggression early on that final table. What do we think? And, obviously you have to overlayer that with, it's an incredible thing to get to the final table of the World Series of Poker main event, the biggest one in history. So it's not a criticism of Toby's play, but when you get that deep and you're down to one or two tables, do you ever get that close again? So how do we think he played that?
Well, I didn't really see much of the action, because I was busy with other tournaments. But what I do remember was, I think it was on day 5 or day 6, and he had the nut flush, but the board was paired, and the guy shoved on him.
Yeah.
And he went into the tank for about 6-7 minutes, and then found the fold, and that caused a massive reaction in the Paris ballroom as well. And I think from that point he may have got targeted, knowing that he can lay down a big hand.
That's interesting.
I didn't really see much of Hutchinson's play, unfortunately, but a lot of the T-side lads were on his rail, so I was like, reeling from afar.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. Did you see any of it, Leigh, or were you in the air when that final table was occurring?
I wasn't in the in the air, but I certainly was suffering from jet lag, so I didn't really see much of the of
you
it. I watched.
arrived back?
I railed it from 2 tables out, but it's very difficult to see anything really that's kind of going on unless they're on the main feature table, because the side tables you don't really see any of the flops. So you're kind of a lot of the time you're just trying to work out what's gone on, or if it's somebody they've normally come over to the rail to kind of say what's happening when there's an all in and a call or whatever, so the rail knows what's happening. That's what, again, one of the things I would say about the series. When you're down to 2 tables of the main event, unless you're on the main table, it's difficult to see what's going on, and you've got a couple of hundred people in that room that are all kind of railing. Again, it wouldn't be difficult to just have a few more screens about to kind of for those that are in there to actually see what's going on. It's interesting listening to or seeing the chat here. Simon Law says Hutchinson seemed card dead on the final table. Pete says both played too tight in his opinion. However, they didn't have the quality of cards, and I guess that's the problem when you've gone that deep in the tournament. The ICM decisions that you're making, the money jumps are just insane. I suppose it gets to a point though where when you've made that final table and you've locked up $1 million. I don't know, whether it weirdly becomes easier. I don't know about the decisions that you're making. The pay jumps don't become as.
That's almost what I'm sort of thinking of. Really.
Yeah, does it become a case of, all right, well, I've locked up $1 million, so okay, well, it's less of a worry about what it could be. You're not looking at the 12 million up top. You're kind of just you're just then playing your cards. I think possibly that's a less of a deal than it is maybe when you're sort of 3 or 4 tables out, where you're kind of like, well, I've locked up a couple of 100,000, but the jump to $1 million is massive at that point, isn't it? Yeah.
So Mr. Hutchinson didn't play too many hands on the final table, and Pete's quite right. He did appear to be quite card dead, wasn't getting a lot of cards, but you've still got position, right? And you've still got to play, and you've still got to make moves and what have you. It felt a little bit like every exit was where he was winning. That was the remainder of which again seems a remarkable thing to say, given that we've survived 8 days. And we're in day 9, like the second last day of the World Series of Poker. You're on the final table, but didn't really get involved, and ultimately limped out. Albeit he limped out $1.8 million better off than when he limped in.
Yeah,
it's an incredible result.
And you would say, and I'm sure Chris will back this up, is you don't get to that point in the tournament by not playing cards and not playing poker.
This is it.
So
this is it.
You've got to have played to get there. And I guess if it is a case that actually you're just not seeing the cards, and bear in mind that this is about the biggest tournament of the year, so everything's there. Everyone's dissecting everything in the same way that the hand that Chris mentioned with Toby, that got dissected online for a day or so afterwards, with everybody having an opinion on whether he should have. I think he was getting accused of cheating at one point. It was absolutely it was nuts. From it, so everything is there, visible. Everybody can see the whole cards on that final table. They can see every decision that's made. So I suppose if you haven't got the cards coming, what do you do? You sit there and just go, well, okay, well, I'll let somebody else do something, and you ladder up from 900,000 to 1.8 million in a few places without having to do a huge amount, really.
But by nature of what you've just said, you're quite right. They've had to play the cards they were dealt for the prior 8 days, right? So we know they've got game. Absolutely no question about that. We know they've had to make moves. Toby didn't get a lot of camera time probably up to day 7 or day 8, right? So, what he was doing wasn't largely bizarre, being seen, right?
It was bizarre. They were down to, I can't remember what number they were down to, but the Team Gotham guys were chatting about this. It was down to a certain number. They were talking about the big names still in the tournament. And Toby wasn't getting a mention.
Yeah, because he wasn't being shown on the stream.
Wasn't getting a mention.
Really wasn't.
This is a guy. This is a guy that's won millions playing. And plays high stakes games and has won EPT. Wasn't even getting a mention. And you start thinking, how is this even a thing? This is just incredible.
Completely agree.
But but also his manner at the table, very cool, very calm.
Yeah.
Didn't seem to be fazed by anything. Just there, going about his business. It just that was it. His partner was over on the rail with a couple of friends, and they would would go over, a bit of water, just chatting about it, and that's it. And that was pretty much him at the what I watched of the railing of the final couple of tables. Quite happy.
I don't know if I'd have the. I don't know if I'd have the guts, which is unusual for me, because generally I like to think I'd have the guts to like ask him some of this stuff, because it'd be very easy to be that these are loaded questions and stuff like that, and actually that's not what this is at all. I mean,
no, it's not genuinely. No, far from it.
Was it the occasion? You know, what was it? Because you're right, it gets that final table gets such an amount of focus. And it must have felt so forced and formal, the whole occasion. You know, particularly
I think what the guys have said in the chat is right. I think the eventual top three, just they ended up top three because the cards kind of just fell their way and hands fell their way. I don't think there was anything too clever about their poker or the decision making that they were making. It was literally that whole final table. Those guys that didn't get cards on the final table bust early. Those guys that actually just happened to hit the right cards at the right time. Say they weren't making some amazing laydowns and some amazing decisions or some amazing plays or anything like that. It just kind of the cards pretty much paid itself, really, with a lot of it. And that's why I guess from a viewer's point of view, from you as a viewer, I can understand why you were kind of going, well, it was a bit
get it on,
a bit of a nothing. Yeah, really, yeah.
Go for it. But an outstanding achievement for both of the lads to get that far. Obviously, they bring a lot of money back into their bankroll or whatever. Toby's high level pro. I mean, he's playing whatever it is he chooses to play. Don't know what difference it will make for Dean Hutchinson.
They spent it all at a party at the Cosmopolitan. The pool. The whole lot went the next couple of nights, from what I can gather.
I can. And part
of
me
I'm certain that they ended up with a spearmint rhino. So
So I don't think any of it came back.
They ended up owing the casino $200,000 and a tiger.
I know that they were all on those spinny mobile video things on the strip where you dance around and it videos you 360 degrees. They're not cheap, so they'll have done a fair bit. At least 2 or 3 groups of them had to go on that. So that's going to cost a fair bit. So,
absolutely. Is there any truth in the rumor that the Mirage's volcano has been most recently seen in Falkirk?
It's moving to Scotland, definitely. So to be honest, those guys, say Dean's rail and the guys, that's what you want when you're on a final table. A rail like that are just supporting everything you're doing, keeping your feet on the ground a little bit as well, with a bit of humour and just saying the right things at the right time and basically being there for you. They're the moments that you play. But I was chatting to someone earlier on today, and we were talking about poker. Why do we put ourselves through it all? Because you just get these suck outs and bad beats and all this kind of thing. But you do it for the moments where you do make a final table and your mates are railing and all those kind of things, because they're the moments that you remember and will live with you. I can say that they will definitely have had a good time. That's for sure.
Yeah, too right. So where to next, Leigh? Are we showing any particular interest in this wee tourney? Is Toby still in with 30 bigs?
Toby's still in. It's still got late reg for an hour or so yet, to be honest. They've got 14 left of the 23 that started it. It's going to play down to about 3, so it's going to be going on for a fair old bit of time, I think, to be honest, Des. So there's a few things we do need to do a bit of a bit of a shout out for and Ace in the chat.
It's
So
superb.
as he's bust his
Made the money
his
though.
Sunday minutes, but he comfortably made the money and had a nice little turnaround on that. So very well done to him. Obviously, Asa is one who will be looking forward to the new football season, seeing whether City can do 4 in a row. First one to ever do it, and obviously that leads me on nicely to the fantasy football. Yeah, to the fantasy football league, which is kick off, because actually we're going to kind of be. We're live from Coventry next Sunday for the APAT Open Championship, and then the football season starts the weekend after that, Des. So we won't actually do a show.
It starts next weekend, I think you'll find.
Oh well, for some lower league sides, yeah, it does. It does start next weekend. So next Friday, I think actually is it first games. Championship got games on a Friday, I think.
Yeah, because Canada's playing on Friday.
Yeah, I think someone's playing on a Friday. Isn't it?
What is this championship you're talking of?
Yeah. So that's all kind of is kicking off. So if you want to get involved in the fantasy football league this year, the APAT Show League is up and running. Details are in the Facebook group. Usual standard stuff. We play for fun, but we throw some added value seats into that as well. So it's free to enter if you want to get involved in that. Details there. If you can't find them anyway, just give me a message and I will send you the code that you need to get in and to do that. But do get your team in. And registered up if you want to start scoring points from the very first week. So, but as I say, that is going to come around before you know it. And we probably aren't going to have much of a time. I was hoping we might be able to get a few of the usual suspects on a show. And we'll try and put a fantasy football team together without, it'll be a bit of a bun fight, but see if we can actually, I think we're only all going to agree that Haaland would definitely be in the side. I'm going to guess that's about the only one we probably would actually
Sorry, Lee, Hoyland.
Yeah, well, Hoyland, obviously. Yeah,
sorry, have you just bought a duplicate player that just doesn't really score many goals or assist much?
Definitely not bought a duplicate player.
You've paid more for him.
Yeah, right. So, okay.
There we go. Come on.
Look. So, the Haaland deal last year was an anomaly. City did not pay the market rate for Haaland last year. It was a done deal. It was signed into his contract with Borussia Dortmund. It's the reason why he didn't go to United in the first place, because they wanted to put this sell-on clause. We didn't want to do it. Borussia Dortmund were happy to do it. So City got him at a reduced. I mean, what would Haaland have actually cost last season if City had bought him at market rate?
Well, to be honest, I mean, they've paid it to him in wages, right? So he had a buyout clause on his contract, right?
He's got it however he's got it. So yeah. So good for him, no problem. But you can't compare that whatsoever. The deal that we're about to do for Hoyland from
Atlanta, Hoyland, Haaland. What is that? Hoyland. Is that a sort of a copy of some sort?
So anyway,
the Wish.com version.
Yeah. So back to that is pretty much market rate for somebody of that age. Striker wise for United, there's not really many other options out there. We had to go and sign a striker and to give us more options up front. I don't think it's that bad a deal financially. We're always going to pay a bit of a premium. That's fine, but the proof will be as to whether he hits the ground running and bags some goals.
Good luck to the lad.
Yeah, I've got no issue with it whatsoever. Look, I'm really pleased. The most important thing as a United fan is we are not even at the end of July, and we've pretty much got the three main signings that Ten Hag wanted sorted. We might get another one or two depending on what happens to the few that go out the door. We were normally doing these deals in another 3 weeks' time, with the season already started, and it's not working. So from that point of view, brilliant.
It's true.
Yeah, brilliant.
Lee,
and we'll see what happens. Yeah. So.
Lee, we've reached the end of July, and for a Liverpool fan, we're still working on Mbappe. It's not easy.
Well, you might get him on loan for a season.
To be honest, of course it's all a rumor. I wouldn't want him on loan for a season. He'd only unsettle.
The problem you're going to have is on loan for a season unsettles your squad.
Oh yeah, you wouldn't want him.
And he's not staying. So it doesn't really achieve a huge amount for you.
He's never tasted Scouse, Lee. He's never tasted Scouse.
What are you doing there?
Sorry, you're missing my bowl, my little bowl.
Oh, right. Okay. Gone for the
Sorry, Lee.
Like, wow.
Sorry, Lee. What
It's
did you
like,
think I was doing?
wow.
Because, you know, this is my chin.
Well,
That's my chin,
I mean,
Lee.
I mean, Chris, where
Just what were you resting on? And that's what I wanted to know.
Oh, guys, if only that would be a good day indeed. Listen, Lee.
the thing they'll do for Mbappe, goodness me, wow. Like,
Listen, Lee. Oh my God, we're gonna have to look back at that. Long-term loyal APATer, right? Long-term loyal APATer.
we've got one. Who are we talking about?
Soon to be banned, Lee. Soon to be banned is back in the chat box, delivering a payload in your direction. One Frank Bailey says, sorry to say, the Guinness Book of Records wouldn't accept Lee's non-stop 2-hour live chat last week. Reason given was they missed the live show last week. Well, listen, Frank, we've got a transcript. Lee picked it up in Vegas. We'll send it on to you. Get that off to the appropriate authorities. We want that record.
Yeah,
He's coming after you, Lee. He's coming out. Frank is coming after you.
Week. Yeah, it might have gone on a little bit last week, but yeah, it's all good. So much exciting stuff back from Vegas, and football season coming round, and we've got loads going on. So lots happening. So yeah, so fancy football important. Get that out there. Get your teams in if you want to do that. This time next week, we are going to be in Coventry for the APAT Open Championship, part of the Goliath Festival. Goliath kicked off late last week. The actual Goliath event itself started yesterday, as I said, I already mentioned, so already 1,200 runners yesterday, 1,300 runners today. Day ones are running all week if you want to try and get into Goliath. If you don't get through your day one of Goliath, don't fear, don't panic. We've got more poker for you because you can get into the APAT event next Saturday.
Awesome.
Starts at 6 o'clock in the evening. It's our usual format. So the day one will play through to 15% of the field. You'll all be in the money for the day two on the Sunday. Loads of questions around kind of, is it capped? What's the situation? What's going on? So if you want to pre-register for it, you can only do that now in Coventry. So you need to go to the casino, to the arena, and you can pre-reg for this. If you're there at any time during the week, you're playing one of the Goliath Day ones, or you're rocking up in the evening to play one of the side events, the Joker's Wild or something like that, whatever you're going to play, and you want to actually register for the APAT event, you can do it there and then. They'll take your registration in advance. That'll be pre-regged. You'll be in, chips in play, ready to rock and roll. If you don't know what you're doing, or you made the day two of Goliath and you're like, okay, well, I'll have to see what's going to happen. Yeah, you'll just have to hang fire in the short term. But don't forget, Goliath Day 2 starts at, I think it's either 11 o'clock or midday on the Saturday. So we're not starting until 6 o'clock. So plenty of time to be able to jump into the APAT event. They will keep opening tables. So capacity-wise, we don't think we'll have an issue whatsoever because obviously the guys at Grosvenor want to actually make sure everybody gets to sit and play the APAT event if they want to do so. But you might find, as the tournament starts early on, the first couple of hours maybe of late reg, you might be on an alternates list waiting to sit down and play. It literally is going to just rely on dealers and tables as to what they can do. But the idea is we'll get everybody in that wants to play. But if you can pre-reg it this week, if you're in Coventry, just do that, and then that gets you in, no bother whatsoever. Yeah. We'll be live streaming the day two on the APAT show on Sunday. I'll be in Coventry with Tom, and Des will be in HQ pushing all the buttons and doing all the necessary for that. And then, of course, there's the WSOP as well, which you need to just give a shout out about, because pre-reg for that is available now via Luxon or the Dusk Till Dawn cash desk. So if you're in Nottingham and want to go and do that, you can go and buy in at the cash desk. All events are available on Luxon. So if you want to go and buy in for those, you can do now. Again, all of those are going to have caps on them as well. It's a little bit fluid in that Dusk Till Dawn are able to switch things around. If one event's more popular than they thought it was going to be and another one not as so, they can move things around. But if there's particular events you want to play, and we're running, obviously, just about everything is running across those 6 days in Nottingham at the end of November. That's the bank holiday weekend at the end of November. So if you want to get involved in that, I would strongly recommend going in pre-regging for some of those. And hopefully, I know I said it last week, but hopefully I'll have some news this week regarding GG on that one as well. So all good. So loads going on, Des. Loads going on.
Yeah, a ton going on. It's all good stuff. Yeah, can't wait. Basically, August is going to be huge. Huge.
So Simon says so. The Friday night game, Chris, is Sheffield Wednesday versus Southampton.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. So that'll be that. Who have you got? Who have you got first weekend?
I think we've got Coventry at home off the top of my head, but so it's a rematch of the semi-finals of the playoffs.
But you've had a lot of loan players have gone back, and you've not really brought anybody in other than a goalkeeper. Is that right?
We've signed 7 players in total, but there are more youngsters.
Yeah.
I think the biggest player we've got is Sammy Yang from QPR. So I think we need another 4 or 5 players coming in, but there's talk that we could get Cameron Archer back again this year. So it was very useful towards the end of last season. But I think it's more a case of hoping we keep all the Chubb Arcom, who's in his last year of his contract.
So really, because he was your kind of, I guess, your big value player, and what potentially is running down his contract, or?
Well, he hasn't signed a new contract yet, and he's gone into his last 12 months, so it's still up in the air what's going to happen. I mean, to be fair, this time last year he was designated to the dustbin because
don't tell Liverpool, because it sounds like they're looking about maybe a striker, and they love a bit of value. Does Liverpool? They don't like paying over the odds for any. They try and beat down a price if they can, try and get him on the cheap. So yeah, they'll love a bit of that. They can get him on a freebie. No bother whatsoever. They basically just flog them off to Saudi Arabia at premium prices, and then then they just do a silly deal. If somebody wants to tell me how Liverpool paid what they did for McAllister,
and what a player though,
Brighton,
Lee! What a player!
Phenomenal,
35 million,
phenomenal deal.
And
how
he's playing so well.
Deal? Yeah.
And Szoboszlai, the Austrian, unbelievable player. I mean, these players are playing amazing. Liverpool's 3 friendly games in pre-season, 12 goals. Right, 4, and 4 today. We hammered Leicester 4-0 today, honestly.
It was Leicester's youngsters, though, wasn't it? It wasn't really a major.
I don't know that it was.
It was a pretty. Leicester hardly got any
playing
players
next
left
season,
anyway.
Right?
Yeah.
Leicester will be interesting.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens with Leicester, because obviously a number of players have left Leicester after relegation. I mean, do you see them as being? I mean, who's favourites for the Championship, Chris? Who would you say will be looking to be the top 2 to go back up?
From the 3 that came down, I'd say probably Leeds are probably in the strongest position. I think there's a rot setting at Leicester, and I spotted it last year. Start of the season, I said I think Leicester are going down, and it was proven right. Southampton, it looks like they've got a big rebuilding project as well coming up.
So part of Southampton's problem was that they spent a lot of money on a lot of youngsters in their last season in the Premier League, and they just couldn't cut it. Now a number of those are wanted by other clubs, decent prospects. So they've got a good squad there. It's whether Russell Martin can actually hang on to what he's got there, and youngsters. It's very rare that a team full of youngsters gets out of the Championship, because you need to be a little bit more savvy in the Championship to do that. Yeah,
I'm telling you now. Liverpool will sign Lavia this week.
I'm guessing he's going to go, and they're talking. They want about 40 mil for him, don't they? I think something like that.
Worth every penny, I imagine.
Yeah. So there's a number of those youngsters at Southampton that I think are probably going to move on, and it's then how quickly they can get some of the players in to do it. But I would agree with you. I think Leeds are probably, of the 3, best suited to go back up. I mean, what would be a good season for your guys, Chris?
After the end of last season, I thought we would have been nailed on automatics, but it's the lack of activity coming in during the summer. It's a bit of a concern. So at the moment, I'll be happy with top 6.
Playoffs.
Yeah.
If it was playoffs again, you'd go, we'll take our chances with. Well, you only have to see what happened last year in the playoffs to know that it's you'd have never predicted that playoff final.
No, absolutely not.
No, just no chance would you have predicted that would be the playoffs, and so for Luton to have their shot you're kind of just assuming Luton are going to come straight back down. But stranger things have happened in the Premier League, so you never know how it'll play out.
I think
Luton is stronger equipped than Sheffield United. I think Sheffield United probably may challenge for the lowest score in the Premier League because, I think
really, you reckon? Okay.
Wow.
I think their transfer budget is like £5 million in the bag of
didn't
balls.
They have? They had a couple of players on loan last season that have gone back. So they had a couple of the City players, didn't they, on loan, and they've not renewed those. Des, did you say you think Luton will stay up?
So two things. Sheffield United had a very decent FA Cup run last season, and I thought the core of their team actually looked pretty strong, given some of the opposition they found themselves against. No, I think I would be amazed if Luton were able to stay up. I would doff my cap to them if they're able to stay up. I think everything is likely to be against that occurring. But good luck to them. Good luck to them.
I think it all depends on if they can make the ground a fortress, because a lot of Premier League prima donnas will not like going to that stadium with the away fans going through the terraced houses. It'll be an absolute throwback for them. And
Natalie won't like me saying this, but I think Burnley will have a good season. I really do. I think they've got a good man. I think they've got a good manager there. I think they will have a good season. Which then obviously means if we're thinking Luton and Sheffield United are going to drop straight back down, then it's just a case of who's the other club that drops in there. Do we think? Is it a time for a Wolves or someone like that to go? Will it be Bournemouth back down again? Will Forest manage to do it? So Simon thinks. See, I don't think Everton will be in the mix this year. I think Dyche will do enough to keep them out of it. But it'll be interesting to see. I'm not saying they're going to be spectacular, but I think he'll have them organised.
I have to say, guys, Premier League season finished. Premier League, right? It doesn't feel like that long ago. The summer has absolutely flown through. Obviously, Championship starts next weekend, so we're pretty much back. It's remarkable how quickly that occurred. But what a summer of sport! From the tennis to the golf to the cycling to the Women's World Cup, which is cracking on. England, bit of a slow start to it, I would say, but nonetheless, maximum points already through to the last 16. What a summer of sport it's been.
The Ashes has been one of the best cricket series I can remember for a long time. It's not gone England's way, but you cannot fault it for entertainment and the closeness of all of the tests. It's been a great series to watch, played in a good spirit. Yeah, it's great. And the women's football World Cup was, we'll see. England might just. It could just be they're just getting through the group and they've managed to find a little bit of form, but at the moment they're looking pretty average at the moment. But that's not to say that they can't find a bit of form to do it. But been some great goals. And did you see the Swedish striker scored the little kind of from the halfway line kind of jobby the other day? Amazing, brilliant skill.
I missed that
to do that. Yeah,
she ran through or she scored from the halfway line.
No, ran through. So little pass and then go ahead. So it's some good quality stuff. But England just need to turn it on, which I'm sure they can do at some point. So
well, we will see. We will see.
It will be good. Yeah.
So, gents, I think we are reaching a natural finish to our show tonight. It is 23:35. Any other order of business, Leigh? Anything else we need to cover off before we shut down?
No, I think we just wish Chris a very enjoyable break with the family, and
absolutely
after absolutely working his socks off in Vegas. I genuinely don't know how the guys do it. I know it's a little bit of a labor of love because in what they do they love it so much, but it's proper hard work, and quite often they don't necessarily get the plaudits for all their efforts. It's very easy for players to criticize. But it's the same. There's a really good thing. I've shared it on the APAT Twitter account. If you go and check it out, a little thing from a new dealer in Vegas this year, just kind of his take on it. Him and his wife, he's a taxi driver in Vegas and decided to deal.
Brilliant.
And his wife also did as well. And a beautiful little summary of kind of his experiences of he's very open about how much he earned and at the series and all this kind of thing. Yeah, really, really open up there. So I've shared it on the Twitter account. Well worth checking out. Just a different perspective on it, and of course, getting the likes of Chris's perspective on the summer as well as an updater and working out there again is always fascinating. And of course, the beautiful thing is, no, there were no shootings and nobody was turning poker tables over on themselves. So yeah, you had a fairly peaceful summer, really, Chris. Yeah.
Yeah, and no one dancing naked as well with cowboy boots in their hands. So
there you go. So,
yeah.
You're obviously not being invited to the right parties, young man.
I was going to say, there's always 2024, Chris. There's always 2024.
Oh, yeah.
Presidential election in 2024. You're guaranteed some action of that, I am sure. Well, listen, I think we are closing it down. So big thank you to Chris for sharing our evening with us.
Sorry,
oh no, you have something to say. Do your thing.
Yeah, Raise for Jack will be holding their annual charity night at the Grosvenor Casino in Stockton. There'll be many prizes kindly donated from you guys at APAT. But I've also got something from Las Vegas. Because us T-siders, we got a chance to stealing stuff, and I managed to find one of these.
He's got a box of them. I'm sure he has. Do you know what this is, Lee?
I managed to get two of them.
I do.
Yeah, you know what this is, right?
Yeah.
So I have managed to get a World Series of Poker card marker.
Yeah.
And that'll be one of the prizes on the night on the 29th of September. And one other prize that I'll be donating is something I managed to find in Vegas. Signed copy of Doyle Brunson's autobiography.
Wow.
So that'll be another prize on the night. So.
I mean, to be fair, guys, it's been signed by me, so I don't know how much it's worth now. But
has it been signed by Darrow Kearney?
Well,
can I ask when he signed it?
But what I would say, so Raise for Jack is, it's a fantastic event to get involved in. If you're up in the northeast or even fancy traveling up and having one or two drinks for the weekend whilst playing a bit of poker, it's well worth getting involved. The guys raise phenomenal amounts of money and have done now for a number of years for a really, really super cause. We're always happy to support it at APAT, and that's I also kind of get behind it and do some bits and pieces in the back for the guys as well. So it's well worth it.
When is it, guys? When is it?
Friday, the 29th of September.
It's the last Friday in September. So it's always full of a bunch, regular APAC guys, but everyone else as well up in Stockton for the weekend. The poker's kind of secondary really to everyone getting together and raising a good bit of money, but so it's always some good prizes, some APAT stuff up as well, and lots of other things being donated for the event. So well worth getting involved in.
Do you think by the 29th of September will Phil TC have got his car back from France? I don't know if either of you guys are aware of any of those issues, but he's had problems over there. Let's hope he has. So probably Raise for Jack, getting guys, obviously lovely donations there, Chris. Fair play. Two very, very nice items to be had there. So get involved, guys, as we like to say around here. Get involved. Everybody's been watching in tonight. There's a bunch of you out there very active in the chat box. We love that, right? So thanks for sticking with us through the night. Top 10 will play through this week. Lee, I believe an Irish guy won it last week, and that is why you didn't want to mention it tonight. Am I right?
Yeah.
Am I right? The Irish guy wins, and you don't want to mention it? What?
Yeah. Well,
did he not win? Maybe he didn't win. Did he win?
Yes, he won.
Yes,
he won. Yes, we'll give him the win. Yeah, that's for sure. Yes.
So well done, Brendan Byrne. And Wayne Parker, who won it, the 2 previous weeks? Certainly the previous week.
Yeah, and you'll see Nelly up there as well. Ellen picked up some points. Tony Ross picked up some points. Talking of Raise for Jack, Raise for Jack's very own Dave Amos there, Poker Pops. He picked up some points and some cash as well. So yeah, all good.
Fantastic. So that all kicks
we're doing it all again.
Yeah,
do it all again on
Monday.
Monday
Tomorrow night, right? So
it does.
enjoy that if you're playing during the week, guys. And as Leigh said, it's APAT Coventry next weekend. Leigh Tom will be running it from Coventry. I'll be joining on Sunday for the live stream. And if you're playing Goliath, best of luck, right? We'd love to see APATers go deep in that. So just have a great week, guys, and we will touch base with you again next week. Night-night.